Welcome to Basketball on Figueroa, the only podcast breaking down everything happening with the Lakers, Clippers, and Sparks. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia, and joining me today, per usual, is Dar E.N. Viziri, aka Dime Dropper. Dime, how you doing, man?
Solid, overwhelmed, a lot going on. Just the schedule. You know how it goes, man. The grind, so many different things going on. Your mind's in so many different places at once. It's a lot, but thankfully our episode tonight won't be super complicated and too much to talk about. So it's not less games to talk about, less losses to talk about, for being real, but still enjoying the Sparks season as usual as it's kind of winding down here. Yourself?
I'm good. I love the fact you actually answered that. Normally he's like, "How you doing?" "I'm good, man." "Okay, cool. Let's move." He's like, "Actually, you know what? I'm kind of tired. It's
Yeah.
been a lot." No, I love it. I love it. I love the honesty. Yeah, it's weird. Like the WNBA season is coming to a close here, right? We're in the final month, and then with the Sparks, because the season is short, you don't get like those like long dreaded out days. But this kind of feels like a mini version of that. Whenever the Lakers were really really out of it, and you're like, okay, just kind of okay, last 15 games here, let's wrap it up. I'm sure you've had some Clipper seasons like that where it's not that you're looking forward to, but you're kind of like, we're playing guys who probably aren't going to be here next year, and it's at this point we're just running the clock out and just trying to make do. And the Sparks aren't quite at that level, as you've mentioned, for many reasons. There's still a lot of youth that needs developing, and there's only a couple games. So, and we'll get into the tanking and like the losses for a minute, but it is kind of getting a little bit of like, okay, clearly not making the playoffs. How many games are left? Like what's going on? What's left here? So yeah, it's been interesting seeing kind of the wrap up here of it. But as you mentioned, not that many games to talk about, therefore not that many losses to talk about. Just have two, which is cool because before we just had one. So we got two games here. We're going to start with the Sunday game against the Dream. The Sparks are currently on the road, doing one like I think it's like the last like generally big road trip. They do have a few more road games, but I think it's the longest they'll be away, and then it'll be mainly home with a couple spots here and there. They were in Atlanta on Sunday, and they lost 80-62 against the Atlanta Dream, another team that is also kind of at the bottom of the league with just a barely double-digit wins. But as you know, the Sparks only have 7, so they're still kind of in front of them and ahead of them. And in this game time, it just felt like it got away immediately. Like the Dream just kind of established, we're here, we're coming out for this win, and they kind of came out to a comfortable advantage. And I don't really never felt that the Sparks kind of made anything close to like a legitimate run. And I didn't feel like it was weird because I wasn't watching the score like as tightly as I normally am because I wasn't writing the recap or doing a preview. I was just kind of watching the game, and I'm like, they're not playing too bad. And I look up and I'm like, oh, 18 points, 22 points. I'm like, man, it just feels like they can't gain any ground. So what were your takeaways from the Sparks Dream matchup on Sunday?
It feels like every time we've played the Atlanta Dream this season, Edwin, Tina Charles just dominates us on the inside. She's a certified bucket. Love her bag. A lot of low post work, mid post work. But I've expressed it from day one, even before Cam got hurt, that on the interior, I still think we are a little bit weak against really strong, like post up players like a Tina Charles. And there was another one that what's her name? Like Tierra McCowan, she was dominating us on the inside the other day, like last week. Just every single time we play against certain bigs, it just feels like we're a little thin down there, especially without Cam. But that was one thing, the Tina Charles effect, our offense just being awful in the sense that we couldn't score. De'Erica had a rough shooting game, 2 for 7 from the field. Rakia was 5 for 16. Nice to see her still hit double figures with 13 points, but just a poor shooting game. And when your two best players and best scorers have poor shooting nights, and then Azare's 1 for 5, just one of those games where we just are struggling to get good shots. Yeah. We just don't have enough offensive firepower. Rakia did get the 15-plus shot attempts, so I love that. But it just wasn't falling for her. It is what it is. Usually you get a better game from Hamby, and then to top it off, the Dream were lights out from 3, 7 for 17, and 5 of those 7 were made by Ryan Howard. So they just kind of had our number this year, and every game means a lot for them as they're trying to push for this final playoff spot.
Right, exactly. And I think another thing that was a clear, like, rough game was like you said, the offense, but in particular 3-point shooting, 3 for 21. Like, you're not winning many games anywhere if you take 21 threes and you hit three of them. You better be like, 60% on the rest of it, because there's no way that math is going to make sense. And that to me is another part of it. They're not the most 3-point heavy shooting team, but if you're going to miss at that level, it's just really rough. And like you said, Tina Charles is an absolute bucket. She was demonstrative. And Hamby, just if she has a game like this, there's no chance. Just, something else someone has to go like nuclear. You need like Odyssey Sims with like 35 or something to really, make up for like a single digit performance from Hamby. So, and of course that didn't happen. So that was kind of it for that one. And moving on to tonight's game, just finished a couple hours ago. Sparks Fever. Of course, every Fever game is like a little bit more attention, a little more notice. And obviously the Fever are red hot. Like, I did not expect them to be anywhere near this hot, Dime, at any point this season. And what I expected was more of what we saw before the Olympics, where some good games, good promise. Clark's going to win you some games. They'll be okay, but maybe playoffs, maybe not. We'll see. And now they're just beating everybody. And the Sparks were another team that got in the way. Fever won 93-86. But unlike the Fever, the Dream game, this one was actually competitive. Sparks hung around a lot, especially in that first half. They played really good first quarter, I think, and second quarter not so much, and then they got away from them there in the second half, which is going to happen when a team is struggling to get wins and finding ways to lose, kind of. Here, let me put up some of the stats on some of the more notable performances from tonight before I throw it back to you. Hamby kind of got back on track, right? 16 points. Sims, 20 points. Sims is a great player, just in a situation where she can't find a consistent role, and she's on her third hardship contract. Third hardship contract. It's a 7-day contract with the Sparks, so we'll see if they keep her along for the rest of the way. I think they'll figure that out. And we got another good Ray Burrell game, which is great. 16 points, 6 for 12, only 1 for 2 from the free throw line, but she's good at getting to her spots and getting those calls. So not happening today, but she was an absolute bucket. So I saw a lot of good, but ultimately I just think that, Caitlin Clark, incredible, triple-double. The second half to me was kind of where things went away. And again, Aaliyah Boston, she doesn't get enough attention. She was a all-star last year, rookie of the year last year. And having a base like that, down there who can score, who's good at getting rebounds, she got 14. She's a player that really, really kind of secures things. And I think now she's kind of figuring out what her role is going to be on this team now that it's not geared towards her and it's geared towards someone else. She's getting better and better at like what the new roles are. And I think that's one of the reasons they've been so red hot. Dime, what'd you see from this Fever Sparks matchup?
Yeah, dude, I agree with a lot of what you're saying about Indiana. I've watched a lot of their games this season, and I mean like full games. They did not look anything like this to start the year. Like, the pick and roll chemistry between Caitlin and Aaliyah Boston has gone to new levels. Like, she knows exactly where Aaliyah wants the ball now. Aaliyah is always looking for the pass. She's just looks like she's in better shape as the season's gone on. She did not look herself in the beginning of the season, but she's been an absolute beast lately. And that's another player talking about getting dominated on the interior by the likes of Tina Charles and players like that. Absolute domination today. I mean, Azare Stevens had a very good game with her pick and pop threes. She had 20 points in the game? Yeah, 20
let me look
points.
up.
No, I'm sorry, that's Odyssey. Azare
had 13.
13 and 11 on 4 for 10 shooting, 3 for 6 from 3. So shooting 50% from deep, that was huge. But on the interior, she was getting mauled by Aaliyah Boston. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, she was getting crushed. But Aaliyah Boston does that to a lot of bigs in the league. She's super strong. And I mean, literally, like, throwing girls out the way. Like, it was crazy, just going right into their chest and they're flying back. But the Caitlin, Aaliyah chemistry in the pick and roll, it seems like they're just countering everything. And Caitlin's always going to draw 2 defenders when she's on the ball. She's like, I feel like the game has slowed down for her now, and she's seeing the reads, like how NBA players get more comfortable with pick and roll reads, and it's lethal. Is it the best pick and roll tandem in the league right now?
Ooh, man, that's a great question. Who are some of the other ones? I like Enrique and Satu. Kelsey and Asia are pretty good.
Chelsea in Asia?
No, Plum.
Oh, Kelsey
Not
Plum
Gray.
in Asia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not Gray. But Gray's another one. But Gray doesn't play like she's got a different style than Clark, and so does they're different. I'd say it's one of. I don't think I'd give it over like everyone, but it's a really good one. I haven't even really thought about that question before. Like it's just specifically a 1-2 tandem pick and roll. Who's better?
I only thought about it today, and
Yeah,
I have to think that they have the highest pick and roll frequency of any players in the league. I would think. I don't have the advanced stats in front of me or anything like that, but
yeah,
I would not be surprised because that's the bread and butter. It's very NBA like high ball screen. Caitlin's
yeah,
gonna put two on the ball, and she's gonna make a read. But Aaliyah, she was very impressive. Obviously, we know Kelsey Mitchell's been great, but
yeah,
Rakia had one of the roughest games she's had in weeks tonight. Like
yeah,
she was just turning the ball over and missing every single shot she took, it seemed, offensively. And she didn't even close, really, right? If I'm not mistaken. I don't even
yeah,
remember her closing the game because she was just had such a rough one. And it is what it is. She's been playing well lately. But yeah,
yeah.
5 points on 2 for 11 shooting, 2 turnovers. She just didn't have it going on. But Azure and Odyssey kept us in the game. Odyssey had 20 points. She was turning the corner really well in the pick and rolls. Ray Burrell, you mentioned, very solid game. Kia Nurse, very solid two-way game, but it was a rough last 2 minutes for her. She just had some really good looks at three she didn't hit. And then that offensive rebound that Lexi Hull got ended
Yeah,
the
that
game.
long one. Yeah,
Yeah, it ended the game. And Kia 3 for 9 from three. There were just one or two that would have just been huge. But I mean, the way Indiana's playing, you got to tip your cap to them, man. Caitlin and Aaliyah Boston pick and roll tandem. That's what I've been looking at. It's just improved so much as the season's gone on, and that's a credit to both of them individually, but also together on the floor. So, yeah, man, tough loss, but if we get, I guess I'm segueing us into the next topic, but
go for it. Go for it.
it's a weird feeling to be in, Edwin, because I haven't been in this position as a fan in such a long time in any sport, really, where I'm like, yeah, losing is not a big deal. Like, it's just like, is it even better if we win? Like, do we even want us to win? I do root for the team when we play, though, just because, especially with a player like a Rakia and young players like Ray Burrell, we want them to gain confidence and play well. You know what I mean? To take that momentum into the future seasons. But we need some help, man. We really need some help with the guard spot. We need some help with shot creation. We need some help with shooting the ball. And that museum by LACMA that they call the Paige Museum, we don't have to change. Might
Oh,
have to change it to Paige later in 2025. Hopefully.
That's the most like you're such an LA guy. You went right to the branding. You're like you got the NIL deal ready to go. You're like, yo.
LeBron tar pits and a statue of Paige Becker's right there.
Right? Like you got it ready. You're like, oh, this is easy. This is easy money right here. Yeah. So yes, we're gonna talk about the T word, the P word, tanking, and Paige. Right. So let's talk about it. It's funny because I think the last Sparks win, Kurt threw cold water on the tanking. He's like, I'm sick of hearing tanking. If I hear you guys say that word again, like, and I'm like, oh, I'm working on something. And I got something from Silver Screen and Roll I wrote this morning that was kind of just laying out the scenario, right? Because like you said, it's a weird feeling to be like, I kind of hope or I won't be so disappointed if we lose, right? More than anything, just I'm not going to be beaten up about it. And for me, I'm kind of the same way. I'm still not rooting for a loss because that feels weird. But when it happens, I don't hate it. I'm like, okay, well, better odds. And especially with now we're down to like 8 games, right? I kind of thought it was ridiculous when I saw tweets like this, like in May. I'm like, yo, chill out. Like, we might make the play, we'll see what happens. Now we have like, 6 games left, I think, at this point. Okay, cool. You want to take the last 6 games? Clearly not going to make the playoffs. All right, I understand. But let me break it down just for some people because they might not know how it all works. So let me break down how it's a little different from the NBA or anywhere else, right? This is the W. So in the W, what happens is the 4 teams that don't make the playoffs, they're the ones that are put into the lottery. So that's what's considered the lottery, top 4 picks, right? So you don't make the playoffs, you're going to get a chance at the number 1 pick, and then the percentages are decided not only from this season, Dime. it's 2 seasons. So the bottom 4 from this year have a shot at it, and it's whoever had the worst record in the last 2 years is the one that ends up with the highest percentage, which is kind of why Kurt was like, I can't even tank anyway because I should have been tanking last year harder because, you know, this is only a small percentage of that whole 2-year span. Now, for the Sparks, the good news is they were the worst team of the 4 teams available right now, and that might change because someone might, jump up to the 8th seed, like you mentioned, the Dream. But if they do, whoever jumps down will barely jump down. So the Sparks should be safe in that regard since they're at the bottom. And right now they have the best chance. They have let me see the exact number. They're 44.2% chance of getting the number 1 pick.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's high because now that might change because let me look up who the second team is. Yeah, they are they have a 5-game advantage in terms of like having the worst record. They're 5 games apart from the team closest to them, which is the Washington Mystics. Now that's improved to 6 games at this point, or 5.5 if you want to be technical, because they just lost tonight. This was before the defeat now. So they need to lose 3 more games. If they lose 3 more games, the Sparks lose 3 more games, they are a lock for the best chance of getting the number 1 pick. They'll have the highest percentage. No, they could win every game after that. If they lose 3 more, no team can lose enough to, circumvent the record they've had in the last 2 years. I mean, this is literally, Dime, you're watching the worst year in Sparks history. They have the lowest win percentage right now than they've ever had in their 28-year history, which is like the longest in the W. So this is about as worse as it can get. As you know, the context. There's some good players. We know one of our rookies got injured, so that's why it doesn't kind of feel as bad. But on paper, wins, losses, this is the lowest in like all ways you can look at. It might change. It might be second or third lowest if they get some wins. But right now, they're the worst, and they're on pace to be the worst, and they'll have to win some games to stop that. So that's where we're at. So that's the scenario. Now, again, just like this is in the NFL, so just like the NBA, just because you have the highest percentage, you might have disaster. You might end up with the 4th pick, but you at least get 4, 3, 2, 1. That's how it works. You're guaranteed pretty much at least a 4th pick. And the draft, we don't have the official date yet on when the draft is, but last year was on December 10th, which makes sense because that's like dead of winter. March Madness and all that's still happening, but it's dead of winter, and it's just a lot of reasons. The draft, right? The draft's going to happen shortly after, March Madness and all that. I think it's like 2 weeks after, something like that. But in terms of the lottery, which just decides where you're at, that's December. So expected first 14 days December, early mid-December. We should get that. They always do it in New York. They have representatives up there, have a watch party. The last few years, it's been on a Sunday. So look up the December Sundays. One of those is probably going to be it. And, once we have that information, we'll of course talk about it, but they probably won't announce that until, the WNBA season is completely done and kind of hype you up for the next one. Similar cycle as the NBA. They're not going to tell you that now because it's more interesting to drop that when they don't have anything else to talk about. So, but expect it this year, expect it late this year. And it's a big one. Why? Say the name, Dime.
Paige Beckers.
Paige Beckers, right? So who's Paige Beckers? You might be like, I've kind of heard that name. Sounds familiar. Well, she was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. They came through in the same year, and when she joined UConn, it was like, oh my goodness, UConn's gonna keep running things, right? And she started off red hot. She was Gatorade Player of the Year that year. She was the player. That's who she was. Unfortunately, she had some injuries that took her out for a couple seasons. She only played 17 games between 2021 season and the beginning of this past collegiate year. So she hasn't really been healthy. So she hasn't played. This year she was healthy and she was spectacular. If you watch or rewatch the NCAA tournament, she went to the Final Four, lost to Caitlin Clark in the Iowa Hawkeyes, but it was a very close game, and she was right there. And I thought she should have came out this year because she was eligible. I'm like, come out. I've heard different reports as to kind of why. The best I heard is just generally she just really likes, being a UConn Husky, and she hasn't won a title there. And she doesn't want to be the guard known for like, oh, you didn't do it. Everyone else did it, but you didn't do it. So the fact that she likes it, she likes being there. The fact she hasn't won the title, and maybe the ego. She knew she wouldn't be number 1 if Caitlin Clark was there. You wait another year, you get your collegiate ring, and then you get to be number 1. It kind of can't hurt. So those are kind of some of the reasons why she didn't declare already, because she could definitely declare. And she still has, I believe, the COVID year. So technically, she could decide to opt out to stay in college another year, but I don't think anyone's expecting that. Everyone expects her to play one more year at UConn this fall and then be done and be the number one pick. So that's the opportunities. There's some other players as well. Next year's draft is going to be a really, really big one. I'll send you some links and stuff. Definitely some teams and players I think you should just watch. I know you're going to watch USC, of course, but there's some really good, and Kiki's one of them. She'll go up very high.
Yeah, I was gonna say about Kiki though, and I am so excited to watch her play this season. It just feels like we need a guard so much more than we need bigs and forwards. And I love, you know what I'm saying? And it would be great if Kiki was a spark, but it just doesn't make sense with our team right now. Paige makes perfect sense with our team right now. Her game against USC was unreal. She completely outplayed Juju on both ends. And, Juju's a freshman, so she should, but she really just showed up that night. She was incredible. It felt like any amount of space she got, she was hitting. And just so smart, could score in so many ways, works well off the ball. So I'm excited to watch her this year with UConn. Hopefully she's wearing that purple next year. I was going to also say, in regards to how bad we are, this is why I always tell people, especially when it comes to the Clippers and a potential rebuild, it's not the worst feeling in the world to suck, depending on how you suck.
Yes.
And
I don't want to suck like the Wizards, but I'll suck like the 2017 Lakers. That's fine. There's a difference there.
I like that. And then my second point was, this is special, Edwin. It is our first year doing basketball in Figueroa for the Sparks. It is the worst season in Sparks history. But damn it, it's going to feel that much better when we're back on top yet again. And Paige Beckers, Cam Brink, and Rakia Jackson are hopefully leading us to it.
Yeah, no, if Paige comes here, I think even if Paige doesn't come here, I think playoffs are a lock. Seeing how good Brink is, if Brink just stayed healthy and the other things develop the way they are, I think they do. I think she does make that much of a difference. Switches up the lines up. Now she's starting. She's a good defender, playing alongside Hamby. If Rakia keeps on growing the way she is, I still think they actually do make the playoffs, or at the very least they're right there. But I think they might actually make it.
We need some guard play though.
Yeah, we do 100%. So if Paige comes through, man, that would be it. So
whatever happened to Laisha Clarendon? She got hurt and she's still been out.
She's been out. The only thing we've heard is mental health reasons. That's all we've heard. So kind of vague.
Wishing her the best.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that's the same reason why I haven't really asked. I'm like, well, if you said mental health reasons, I don't really want to. I know I'm not going to get a great answer anyway, and I don't want to pry. So I've kind of left that alone. But yeah, she's been out for that reason. As you know, Lexi's dealing with her Crohn's issues, and she's been working out and stuff, but she hasn't been able to play. And of course, Brink's been out, with her ACL, and that's been, I think, progressing fine. She's expected to be, fully back and ready to go next season, but that's where things are with that. And yeah, so the weird thing is you're kind of hoping 3 more games. You need 3 more losses, or you need the Mystics to win 4 games. So I think at this point, the easier thing to do is hope for the 3 losses than the 4 Mystics wins. Because then if the Mystics, they're the only team that can kind of catch them. So you're kind of hoping they just, disqualify themselves. So they're on their way. So we'll see. And again, that doesn't mean they'll get the number 1 pick. So it's gonna be nerve-wracking for me. It's weird to think the last time I felt like this about a draft was the Lakers Lonzo year, where I'm like, man, if we don't get this pick, it's all kind of a waste. We lost the year and then we didn't get our piece, right? So I'm going to feel like that here. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's going to be a good draft. There will be a lot of talent. You see this draft, right? People forget Angel Reese was picked 7th, So there was a lot of, talent all around. So I'm not really concerned. They will get good talent. They've shown that they've drafted well. You see the 2 players they got this year. So I'm confident they'll get somebody good. But there's a difference between somebody good and Paige, number 1, fits the need, everything you want, would just solve everything. It would be sensational. And that's one thing I hear about all the time when they're losing. People tweet at me, step closer to Paige, let's get it. So it'll be nerve-wracking this year. Watching, not knocking my camera down. It'll be nerve-wracking this year watching you kind of be like, man, I hope so. We'll see. But yeah, lottery day will be intense. We'll see what kind of event we'll do or what we'll do about that, because it'll be one of those weird years where the biggest basketball event for the Sparks will be a non-basketball event where we're just watching envelopes being presented. Okay, come on. So we'll see what happens there. All right, Dime. We had a couple Lakers and Clippers things. Not much, as you know. We're in the dog days of summer in the NBA. Nothing's really happening. Training camp won't start till probably late this month, early next month for sure. And there's just not many transactions and stuff. It's kind of been a lot of it's been funny seeing like Woj tweet out THT like he's a big guy and he's like he's signing a training camp deal. I'm like, oh yeah, it's that time of year. I get it. But we do have little morsels here. With the Lakers. They've signed 2 players for training camp deals. So essentially, they're just bringing them on as everyone knows, or in case you forgot, the Lakers are stacked in terms of their guaranteed spots and their spots. But they signed Jordan Goodwin to a training camp deal, so he's going to be joining training camp and kind of essentially glorified tryout if you want to call it that. And he's going to be a player that they're going to bring along to training camp and see if worth considering moving some spots out, moving some roster spots, or even there's always the G League, as you know, a lot of players who join teams on training camp deals end up signing to the G League, and being part of the South Bay Lakers, which of course is something that plenty of players have developed from. And the Lakers also signed today Vincent Valerio Bowden to a some of the reports were Exhibit 10. The official Lakers statement is they're not disclosing. So either way, it's a training camp deal. That's what it is. He didn't get a guaranteed spot or anything, but that's where things stand with the Lakers. Have a couple more players added to the training camp roster, and yeah, excited for media day when we get there. We're still kind of in Sparks land, so I'm kind of keeping it in the back of my head. But I'm already kind of starting to eye it a little. We got our schedules, a few more contracts that are out, and just kind of waiting our time there. Don, do you have any comments on those Laker acquisitions? Those two players joining on summer league training camp deals?
Not really. Dog days of summer,
For sure.
as you said. Yeah, I mean, as far as the Clippers front, Paul George's dad came out and said he gave the franchise 110%. He felt like we stabbed him in the back. With respect to Mr. Senior, I think we have a different definition of 110%. I think Paul George's effort was very questionable for a player of his caliber on both ends of the floor, even in the playoff series against Dallas. And I don't think the Clippers stabbed him in the back for presenting him an offer. He took a better one in business. It's not stabbing him in the back. It's not like they said we didn't want you back. But yeah, it is what it is. Paul George is just, with all these guests and all this talk about the Clippers, is just giving us as fans more ammo to boo him relentlessly when he returns on November 6th. So
you got the date marked down, I see.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I find it interesting. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've heard the term, our East Coast friends, Knicks for clicks, and you put the word Lakers in anything to kind of get a sparking. It kind of feels like he's doing a little bit of that. It's also dog days of summer for him too, right? Can't talk too much about much of anything because he's also, just kind of chilling out until he's got to report to training camp and all that. But it kind of feels like to me, okay, like maybe let's move on, right? Like just let it go, leave it alone. You left, it's done. Like, why do we have to keep harping on it? And I guess summertime, so what else are they going to talk about? But yeah, for me, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, end of the day, you made a choice, and I get it. You want to be wanted. It seems to me like you at least felt a little slighted that like Kawhi's getting this money, and then at me afterwards. You know how this ego stuff can be. It reminds me of the Shaq Penny years where Shaq was annoyed that they paid Penny first. He's like, well, what about me? And now with me, you're wondering if 20 million is worth it. Like, egos are a big part of a lot of this stuff and that kind of thing. So I understand that. But hey, end of the day, like you said, you made a decision. You got your money, decided to leave for that money. And, that's where it is. Like, let's leave it alone and check ball, see what happens. But have you given much thought to the Sixers? Does this really move the needle for them? Do you think they're now like legit title contenders, a top team in the East? Or what are your thoughts on now that it's cooled off, but before he actually plays with Embiid and Maxey and all them there in Philly? What do you think the projections are for Philly in your mind?
There's no reason why they shouldn't be a title contender. They have a very solid big three. Paul George is your third option, is amazing. But I don't see them as a serious championship team because of Paul George and Embiid. Embiid's health and the way he plays in the playoffs. And Paul George's, Paul George-ness.
Paul George is Paul George.
Conference finals max, but they're not representing the Eastern Conference in the finals anytime soon.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm kind of with you. Obviously, I don't like to give the Celtics any credit, but I mean, they're literally the defending champs. So at this point, yeah, they're the front runners. And then,
And clearly still have the best roster in the NBA, if we're being honest.
I don't even want to go there, but okay.
OKC has the second best roster right now.
Yeah, and the Knicks, they're going to be better. If they can just stay healthy, they're going to be a really good team. That's the team that I'm definitely going to be pulling forward to come out of the East. I think they probably have the best chance, minus a healthy Philly, of beating the Celtics. I don't think the Pacers. I think they caught lightning in a bottle. I think they're going to take a step back and regress a little in terms of progress. If you look at progress being how far you make the playoffs, I don't think they go as far this time around. Excited to see Orlando, see if they can make some noise. It's like a sleeper fun team. They've been a fun team for a couple years. So, yeah, there's some good stuff happening in the East. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think they should be. And then Milwaukee. People forget about Milwaukee. You still got healthy Giannis. You have healthy Dame. Yes, coach. Maybe not some people on this podcast like.
Good old Glenn.
Good old Glenn.
They'll never win with Glenn, but Giannis, if he's healthy, is a big deal, and they absolutely are more of a contender than the Sixers to me because of Giannis and his championship pedigree. Same with Chris Middleton, but I don't know if they have a better roster than the Sixers, man. Tyrese Maxey is serious.
Do you think Maxey's better than Giannis?
No.
Yeah. So I think I might give the edge to the Bucks there.
But I think that the two teams that have the best chance of beating Boston are Orlando and New York in the series. But Orlando, I mean, we'll see how big of a leap Franz and Paolo Banchero and guys like Wendell Carter take this season. And I think they will, especially in Paolo's case. But not enough to beat the Celtics. Maybe enough to win a round. A team that I would not totally sleep on is Cleveland. They have Donovan Mitchell coming back and signed long-term. Evan Mobley showed some huge signs in the playoffs of developing as an offensive player, and we know what he can do defensively. And Jared Allen got injured, but he was playing great against Orlando. So they're not someone you just completely count out in my eyes to beat Boston, not to win the championship. I don't think they're going to win the championship, but I'm just saying get an upset on Boston.
I can't. I'll be rooting for it, but I can't get there. What about their coaching situation? What do you feel? How do you feel about that?
What about it? JB Bickerstaff?
Yeah, like, you happy?
What's wrong with JB Bickerstaff?
I'm asking if you're happy. I didn't say anything was wrong with the guy.
I think the Cavs coaching staff is fine. I think Jared Allen got injured and Donovan Mitchell got injured, and they had no chance. They literally split the first two games with Boston. And then Donovan just didn't get to play. So,
that's fair.
I mean, Donovan played game 3, I think. It was 2-1. I forget exactly, but point is, I think they have a chance to maybe upset them, but the team that has the best chance to upset Boston is New York. They built this roster for the wings of Boston. But if I had to bet, I'm still going with Boston, not just to win the East, but to win it again. But I did the same with Denver last year. So and we've seen that it's like the 70s right now. Teams can't repeat.
No, yeah. I mean, again, you have to be so good, which we talked about with the Aces, right? Kind of bring it back to W. It's really hard. People think, again, when things are so great, you start to ignore how special it is, right? And when the Lakers did it after the Bulls, I remember because I was, kind of part of the era, everyone was kind of just like, oh, NBA is just a couple teams that are good. And it's like, no, when we look back on it now, it's like, it didn't happen after that. It hasn't happened since. So in the moment, it felt like, oh man, it's always the Lakers, then it's the Celtics, then it's the Bulls, a couple years of the Pistons, and now the Lakers again. Like it's just dynasty, always dynasty. It's all top heavy. The same team wins. And lo and behold, what happened? We found out, no, it felt like it was coincidental, but it was like there was just generational players at their primes dominating, and rosters were different. Once those teams left, and once the Kobe Shaq thing ended, that was it. We've had we've had a couple back-to-backs. We had 3 and 5 years and this and that, but we haven't had anyone who can like say, hey, I've owned the last 1,000 days in the NBA. That hasn't happened. It hasn't been a team. And there's a reason for that. Like we talk about all the time, it's hard to win. You have to be good. You have to be lucky. You can't get injured, and you really do need a couple of those guys. I think, I know you're more into we've talked about modern and whatever, but I think you need at least 2, 3, 4 stars to really have a chance at something like that, back to back and stuff. It's just a lot, and then you need the right stars with the right mentality that they're gonna go after it and get after it, especially after they win. Which is why I think you've seen, Giannis win and it didn't happen, and Joker win. It takes another level to be on top and to still say, I'm gonna work just as hard as I did when I didn't win it, so that way I can stay up there. It's tough to do. That's one thing that you can say what you want about Kobe, Jordan, all them. I'll never say they didn't have that in them, because they definitely did. They went out there like they've never won one before, and that's what kept them up there. It's tough to do. And the league has a lot of parity now, for sure. You see the records; no one's really running away with it. But the Denver Nuggets were in position to get it done. They couldn't, and will be interesting to see how the Celtics do it. I think they're a better team. They play better defense as well, and I think they're very well coached. So I think they have a good shot. But I also thought the Nuggets had a good shot, and then lo and behold, we saw how they were. They were pretty gassed at the end, and they mentioned that too. KCP talked about it on podcasts that they were they were drained by the time they were done with the Lakers series, especially that first round. He said they were drained before, and then after that, it's like it took everything in us. Murray's limping, and we beat them, but like there's more to do, and it's like, man, we're not going to have enough to. Now we have to play another young team. It's like, oh, we don't have it, and then of course they lost, and that's that. So will be interesting to see how all that goes down there in the West and in the East. We'll obviously preview that a lot more later, but now let's preview the rest of the WNBA games for the Sparks. They have a couple games here coming up this week. So we have Friday's game, which is Sparks against the Sky. So they actually be in Chicago for that. That should be fun. It'll be 6:20 p.m. on Ion. So see if you got that in your cable subscription and all that, or you have the access to it some other way. Dime, Sparks, Sky. Sky are struggling right now. They're trying to make the playoffs, but it's a little murky here. So they need their wins, and we already talked about the Sparks situation where trying to win, but you're not sad if you lose. Who do you got?
If Kennedy Carter doesn't play, I say we win. If she does play, I think they win.
Okay, I'm gonna say they lose. The Sparks lose. Yeah, I think the Sky. I think Carter will likely play, and I think they'll get the W. Okay, cool. Sunday. This is a tough one. Sparks versus the Connecticut Sun. It'll be here. It'll be in LA, 6:00. Dime. Who you got winning that one?
I'm first trying to see if I can go to that one. Sunday.
Yep, 6:00.
We'll see. But we're not gonna win, but I might go.
Okay, cool. I will not be there either, and I also don't think we're gonna win that one. So 2 L's. Tuesday. It's a repeat. Sparks Sun again in LA at Crypto, 7:00. Who you got in that one?
Say, what day was it?
Tuesday.
There's a good chance I could be at that one.
I will be at that one.
There's a good
which
chance
also means we'll have to work on our podcast schedule on that one, but we'll talk about that offline later. But yeah, Sparks Sun.
We're gonna lose both, but I'm thinking I'm gonna be able to go to one of them, and I got to choose which one.
You know what? I'm good. Why not? Let's be delusional. They're gonna win Tuesday. They're gonna get it done. They're gonna get one of those wins where you're like, what? It's okay, because they already if they have the other 2 losses, they only need one more in like 6 games. They'll be fine. They're gonna win one of them, and I think it's still tough to win, to beat a team back to back, and they're at home. I think the Sparks, one of them, they'll catch lightning in the bottle and be good enough. So I'm gonna pick the Tuesday game. They'll win the Tuesday one. All right, cool. I see some comments there. Paige, Cam, Rakia will ball way out there. Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that's the hope, right? Like that lineup, and you got Ray Burrell. Yeah, you already got the veterans like Stephanie Talbot locked up too for next year. So it's looking like that would be a squad. But anyway, that's maybe the squad of the future. This is a squad of the present. All right, cool. So there we go. Those are our 3 games. We got maybe a win there. Dime's got Kennedy Carter being out. Sparks will win. And I have us for one of the Sun wins, but That's it. If they lose all these, they automatically will get the top the best odds for the number one pick, regardless. So, that's where we're at with stuff.
I also have something to say. By the way, for everybody that's watching on Twitter, appreciate everybody. It says 244 people on Twitter, 10 on YouTube. Come to YouTube. Please give us a subscription there on my channel, Dime Dropper. Let's get us up to 11K. Hit the notification bell, and you can support the show and send us a super chat if you'd like. Every single week. We try to do this once a week. We're the only podcast that talks about all three professional basketball teams in the city of Los Angeles: Lakers, Clippers, and Sparks. It's been a rough one for the Sparks, but I love how LA is coming together. Fans of both Clippers and the Lakers to root for them, and I'll be definitely trying to go to one of those last two games. Before you have any last words, Edwin, I got some coming up big time tomorrow and Friday on Locked On Clippers. Our play-by-play man, Brian Seaman, will be joining me for an hour-long episode. 30 minutes. I split it up into two parts. Part 1 and part 2 about his whole journey, how he felt about last season, and just, my biggest guest yet on Locked On Clippers, the voice of your LA Clippers, Brian Seaman. It's going to be great, coming out on Thursday and Friday on the Locked On Clippers channel, where you can catch me 5 days a week talking Clips.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely going to lock in for that. That's going to be really interesting. I always love hearing, origin stories and how things are, and then what their feelings are on the team. So yeah, that sounds really good. That's a good get. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, I'll definitely lock in with Locked On Clippers, just like I do with Locked On Lakers and a few other ones. Locked On Women's Basketball's a fun one too. Yeah. Locked On Network's got a lot of good stuff. All right. So that'll wrap it up for today. That's the end of episode 42 of Basketball on Figueroa. I'm Edwin Garcia. That was/is Darian Ziri, aka Time Trapper. The mirror threw me off. We out.